even contrasting
Our
colors.
DYW shirts. We're rocking it.
I almost wore my blue one today, but today I'm in pink.
I love it. So Stephanie Temnyk was selected as California's or Distinguished Young Woman of California, 2020, right? Yes.
Yes, indeed. Seems like so
And
long ago, right?
kind of does. Yeah. These last 2 years have been like a blur. Stephanie is in college right now. I will let her talk about that, but she's also on a DYW scholarship if any of you want to talk to her about that. She's been through a whole year, and you graduated early, correct? So you're doing this a little bit younger than others. So like very well and like put together as a person. So I'm going to turn it over to her, introduce her, but she's great for questions. So here we are, Miss Stephanie Temnyk.
Yay! Thank you so much for the great introduction, Casey. And right now I have all of you ladies on gallery view because I'm just thinking how grateful I am that I can be in Arizona right now, out of state for college, and still able to speak with you all and be a part of this experience. I mean, I always just love being able to come back year after year. I always know that there's another great group of ladies who are here putting their best selves forward. So I know you've heard of that a lot all week about being your best self. And I'm going to be another person to talk to you girls about that because I'm such a huge advocate for it. I mean, once I heard that message through DYW, I knew this is the place to be. This is a scholarship program to be a part of. So once again, let me just say I'm so grateful to be with all of you today. And the topic that I'm going to be just speaking on again is being your best self, but specifically how I applied that to college. I know the easiest way for me to talk about things is what I personally experienced. So that's just what I'm going to go through is each kind of section of being your best self and specific ways in which I applied it. There's going to be just random tips thrown at you that hopefully there can be one thing that you take out of it. And I'm so excited to go through. And at the end, definitely, I love answering questions and just, getting that direct contact with you ladies on the specific things that you are worrying about. And I can give my best advice to it. So yes, Casey kind of gave a pretty great introduction, but I just finished my first year at Arizona State University. I am studying molecular biotechnology and biosciences because I'm a total plant lover. I want to go into plant genetics, do research, hopefully going for my PhD is my plan. And I'm just going on that path. I'm in my second of 3 years. I'll have 2 more years of college after this with just built up AP credit and classes and things that I'm just trying to get through as much as I can while also being my best self through the whole experience. So first, I'm going to start with be healthy because although all of the sections of being your best self hold equal weight in my mind, I like to go through them in kind of a logical, chronological way on how they build on each other. I like to think of it as a pyramid almost. And I always start with be healthy because I always think that when you yourself can be at your healthiest, then you're able to put your best self forward in the other categories of be your best self. So I'm just going to go through basically 3 tips in each section of how I applied this. So I'm going to start with working out. It's one of my favorite things to do because not only is it good for your body, but it also just helps relieve your emotional state when you're in all of these crazy stressful classes. And it's something that I've found really fun, a great habit to go back onto. And you've probably heard it so many times about working out as much as you can whenever you can every day because it's so good for your body. So a way to make that easy is I just set up a workout time. I love having a routine, a schedule, and knowing, okay, basically around 3 p.m. when that worked for my class schedule. And again, although these things are how I applied it to college, it can be applicable with class schedules in high school as you're going into senior year, but then also something to keep in mind for college. So like I said, set up a workout time, find a time that, okay, this is when I'm going to do it. And before you know it, it'll be a great habit. My second thing is meal prepping. Although it can be kind of a cliche, oh yeah, meal prep for healthy meals, it was so helpful for me on the weekends when I knew I had time. I love to do Sunday crockpot dinners because they're so easy. You throw everything in. I mean, there's so many great recipes you can find to meal prep out there. I'm just so passionate about making recipes. So Sundays were the day. Meal prep something that you can enjoy through the week and it'll make your life a lot easier. My last thing, which was really neat to do, was actually taking some kind of health class. In college, you're going to have a lot of options to take electives. And for one of my electives, I took a stress management course. And even if you're as passionate as me about health, there's always something more you can learn. And not only just learning more, but keeping it habitual and consistent. And having that class to take was not only fun because it was an elective and I got to watch a lot of videos, it also just reminded me about the different aspects of health and just keeping consistent with it. Whether that's stress management, you can take nutrition, you can take fitness for life. There'll be a lot of options. So I would definitely recommend. So that wraps up Be Healthy. Now we're going to go into something you think about a lot with college, right? Being studious. And of course, as you yourself have your own studying habits, you want to make sure you stick with that and know what works best for you. But some universal tips that I thought were helpful were preparing your class schedule in advance. I cannot stress this enough. Oh my gosh. The stress of signing up for classes the first semester when I was like, oh, I have plenty of time. And then I realized, oh, shoot, I sign up for spring classes in October. So basically, where I am now in August, I want to start figuring out my class schedule for the next following spring when I haven't even started my fall schedule yet. So prepare your class schedule as soon in advance as you can. Talk with your advisor. They're great. They're so helpful for that. And that will really save you a lot. Section work for each day for each class. I kind of discovered this at the beginning of my first college semester. And what I mean by that is basically for any class that you have, if you have a project coming up or something, specifically I took a sticky note and I put each little detail that I could do, each task that I'd have to do. And then I would just section that. Okay, I'm going to do this little portion. If say there were 16 items, I would do 4 on Monday, 4 on Tuesday, 4 on Wednesday. And that way I didn't have any guilt about, oh, I need to do more work or I'm getting behind. It was just made it so easy and clean and efficient. I was just mind blown when I figured that out. So that for me was super helpful. And the last thing I wanted to mention was just being efficient with your studying in class time. I found that I had a lot of time kind of just in between classes that may have been like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, or maybe it was just 15 minutes while I was waiting to go to the next class. Take advantage of that time, especially if you have those like little sticky notes of the specific task items you can do. When you have something ready to go to take advantage of the time you have, you're going to realize, wow, I can get so much done in just these little snippets. So a lot about being studious in college is, again, working with the tips you've used before, and then just applying the little tiny items to make it as efficient as possible. Okay, next section is one that I always felt that I struggled with the most to come up with what could apply, and this was be responsible. And I think I had the hardest time grasping this specific part of Be Your Best Self simply because it's so umbrella overarching. Like it can encompass a lot of different things. And so one way that I thought was really helpful, and something that if there's anything you take out of this that I will tell everybody I know, is to use a planner. One thing you're going to find in college is that you have a ton of dates, a ton of timelines, so many things to take care of. And you're going to have lots of different extracurriculars, which you probably already experienced in high school, but you're going to feel that you have even more responsibility than before, especially if you're moving out of state or out of your town to college. So use a planner to keep all of those dates and timelines together, because that's going to just save your life. Please, please use a planner, whether that's online, a physical one. It's going to be super helpful. Another aspect of responsibility that I thought is pretty applicable to our digital world right now is Zoom etiquette. You probably heard this a lot, just be poignant, be on time with going to Zoom meetings and things, but you won't realize how important that is and how far that goes, especially when you're working with superiors, when they see that, hey, even though this is just a screen and you're not actually interacting with them in person, having that responsibility to give them that respect and being there on time and just showing Zoom etiquette actually goes a really long way. So I would definitely stress that many times to just show as much Zoom etiquette as you can. And this is kind of where I was talking about how be responsible can be really overarching. It not only can be responsible with your timeline of things, but also say to the environment, how can you be responsible to be more sustainable in this world? And something great about college is that is really stressed and that's taken of importance, at least I've noticed at Arizona State University, and I'm sure many, many other universities do the same thing. Something I found available is sustainable transport. There's always some way of either walking to whatever you need to, especially if things are super close, or using, say, the public shuttle systems that they may have at your university. Just find ways and reach out, see what you can do to have some more sustainable transport when you can. And you won't realize it, but the little things really do make a difference when it comes to being responsible for our environment. All right, so next section, being ambitious. This one's super fun because it gets you excited. It makes you feel empowered. And again, I like the little details of how you can get this big overarching goal of being ambitious into little steps. One thing I'd say, sit in the front of the class. I know that many of you may not have had in-person classes, but of course you did at one point. And then for me, I did have some in-person classes at ASU this past year. And it made a difference, even if there weren't that many people in class, sitting at the front, knowing that I'm going to be able to interact with my professors. That was just a little confidence booster. Hey, I'm doing this. I'm sitting at the front. I'm putting myself out there. Another thing is a vision board or a whiteboard. And I've seen this definitely on DYW a lot. I think I even posted this a while back for DYW, but having a vision board, it's really cool to see your goals out there. Having it concrete and visual is super helpful. Or if that means it's on a whiteboard, I actually have a whiteboard right behind me right now with just different tasks that I want to get done. It helps keep things into focus and just gets you encouraged and inspired when you see it, especially if you're a visual person like me. And the last thing, I always encourage myself to get out of my comfort zone. And that really helps to make me feel empowered when I know I'm doing something that doesn't always make me feel comfortable, but I know that I'm going to feel more empowered and more confident after that. Whether that means doing small things like, hey, I've never really tried this food before. I'm going to make a new recipe or go try it in a restaurant. I'm going to try this new hobby. Like I could be a really musical person, but maybe I've never really tried a lot of active different exercises or workouts at the gym. I'm going to push myself to try that. It's just the little things that you can do that add up. And once you have that confidence, then you can really go for those big, ambitious goals. For me, I can tend to be a homebody and an introvert. So getting out of my comfort zone is just going to bigger person events, especially at a big university. At the beginning of this upcoming semester, there's a big fall welcome where all 10,000 ASU freshmen come together. And I said, you know what the heck? I'm going to interview to be one of the hosts. So I'm actually hosting that huge Sun Devil welcome. It's out of my comfort zone, but I'm so excited because I know it'll make me feel more ambitious and confident. All right, so last section of this little chat. Last but definitely not least is being involved. And I talk about this so much in college because that's one of the best parts of college. You've got, of course, your academic side, but equally as important to building your life skills is how you can get involved in college. So there's so many opportunities and ways you can do this. But 3 examples of what I've done myself this year is finding an on-campus job was really important. And that was a way that I knew that I could interact with the things that are happening on campus. And I specifically got a job in student engagement. And this was a way I knew I could find out about what experiences are happening on campus. And of course, even if it's not an on-campus job, if you find something else that's involved around you, that's great too. But I specifically found it helpful to find something on campus because they're really flexible with your scheduling, knowing that you're a student, and it gets you a little more into the system of your university. The second thing is really reach out to your professors. I can't stress that enough. I mean, they're there, of course, to teach you the information in the classes you take, but they have so much experience and a lot of wisdom that they could teach you and also connect you to opportunities. That's how I was able to connect to most of the opportunities I had, specifically in research, since that's the field I want to go down into. I reached out to my professors, found a vertical gardening strawberry research lab. Who knew, out of all things? And just because I reached out. So please don't be afraid to reach out to your professors and definitely do it. See what opportunities are available in the field that interests you. And the last thing, is choosing a club. There's going to be so many on campus. And when I first started my semester, I wanted to be in all of them. And I literally signed up for all of them. So I would recommend just finding one specific one, particularly that you would want to stick with all 4 years, say, and be able to be a part of that club and help it grow. For me, that was a leadership program with my College of Integrative Sciences and Arts and one of the ambassadors. And it has been so rewarding knowing that I'm going to stick with them and it's something meaningful to me. And yeah, that wraps up Be Involved and overall wraps up just helping to be your best self in college. Uh, the most important takeaway from all of this is that millions of students have, of course, gone through college and succeeded and are on with their lives now. And of course, all of you ladies from across the state who are leaders in your own towns and communities, I have no doubt you're going to do amazing in college. And you know that yourself, but it's sometimes that transition from going before your experience to becoming experienced that's the hardest, and it's almost the hardest mentally. And what I hope you can take away from this is knowing there are definitely little details you can take and practice to feel most comfortable in that process and enjoy every step of the way.
Awesome. Thank you. I definitely want to open it up to questions for all of the girls because I feel like they're going
Yes,
to have a
please.
ton.
I threw a lot of information at you, but any question, please.
Two things I'd love for you to touch on in particular is, was there anything that you were like, oh, this is going to happen in college, or like that never happens in college? And then you got there and you were like, oh, way different than I expected. And then also, you are very close with your family. And I know you are living with your sister, so it's a little different, but I'm sure just like going from always being with like mom and dad and like doing stuff like that, was that like, what was that experience like of just like kind of leaving your family and going to Arizona?
That is both very good questions, but the second one especially, I'll touch on that one first. And I actually did when I was a has-been for the previous or recent nationals program, and that was asked a lot in the college talks. And it's something I thought about actually a lot after that. I realized, hey, yeah, that's something important, especially if you're moving out of state. Casey, you're absolutely right. I was so close with my family, and I'm happy to have been living with my sister. I am living off campus, and having somebody there was so important. But there was definitely, I have like a specific moment. I want to say it was like in October of my fall semester. One like morning, one day, I just thought, what am I doing here? I wish I were with my family right now. It just kind of hit me. And you may have that moment, and you probably will, especially if you're really close to your family. But then after that, it's like, hey, I realized that, this is exactly where I want to be. I have my drive and my passion to go to the next steps where I want to be. And then it's kind of just that little moment that may hit you, but then you quickly realize, hey, I'm in a happy moment right now. This is where I want to be. And of course, to help with just interacting with your family, especially if you're unable to travel back. For me, that was because, COVID restrictions couldn't really happen. One really neat takeaway that I actually heard from the Washington representative of my year in nationals, she said she would set up like a weekly FaceTime session that was maybe like for a Saturday dinner or a Sunday dinner. And again, routine's super helpful. If you have that like Sunday night routine that I'm going to FaceTime with my family and just, chat for 30 minutes and just talk about what's going on, or if that's a call every day in the morning before you're going to go to class where you call your mom or call your dad, that just really sets up that connection that makes you feel like, hey, I still have that family support while still transitioning on to my adult life and becoming more independent, getting more responsibility. And it's a big balance of transition, and transition periods are the hardest, but especially trying to make that routine call, routine FaceTime, that's very, very helpful. And then back to college expectations. Honestly, because I had no idea what to expect whatsoever, it just kind of every detail that would come at me with class scheduling and being involved in extracurriculars and just going around your life in college, it was always a new experience for me since I didn't know what to expect. But I guess the one of the big things was actually learning, especially moving out of state. learning the new environment and the new community in Arizona, in this new city that I'm in, and especially learning the roads and like driving to and from campus. Like, wow, I feel like I have a lot more responsibility and I have to learn a lot more about where I am physically. That was a big thing. Getting used to that kind of schedule of driving to and from campus in a new place. And that was definitely a big thing that I didn't really know to expect and that I just kind of experienced and grew from. And elsewise, it's just kind of getting into a new routine and expecting that you're going to have a lot of new experiences and you won't really know what to expect, especially at your respective universities. There's going to be just new things all the time. And it's really, I guess, one big takeaway is that you're going to have a lot of opportunities and don't be afraid to say no to any of them. And of course, know what responsibilities you can take on, but just take advantage of everything you can because you're going to have a lot of opportunities on campus and find them all, have fun with them. But you don't have to do them all in one semester. You have your whole college lifetime to experience them. So hopefully that was a little helpful. And again, if you have any specific questions elsewise, please go ahead and ask.
Excuse me, I have a question. I love watching these type of YouTube videos about like, do you have any like must-haves or must-brings to college?
Ooh, that's a good one. One thing that I noticed was I really was trying to be frugal with like my fun items, especially like you can see my closet back there. It's closed, but if I opened it, it would probably explode. Uh, that was a thing. I didn't think that I'd have enough room for like, oh, I can't bring all these outfits and things that I have because I'm not going to have enough room in my little closet. And I didn't live in a dorm, but I did live in a small 1-bedroom apartment with my sister. So there wasn't a lot of available closet space, especially with all the stuff she has. Don't be afraid to take the things that are meaningful to you. Don't feel like I need to be really frugal packing, whatnot. And actually, another thing that the Washington representative had mentioned, she said sometimes it's like the really practical things. Like you're not going to think that you need batteries, but hey, it's going to happen. You're going to need them. So sometimes you just have to think about, okay, what random practical, logical things am I going to need? And that can be really helpful just to think about not only the fun stuff, but then also some of the logical stuff. So make sure you have both sides of the spectrum. Great question, by the way, Tristan.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Madeline.
So what would like a normal professor situation, like when professors lecture to you, how do you take notes? Do you take notes? What do you catch on for? What do you listen to? And what is like commonly found like keys that will be on the tests and stuff?
That's a really good question. That's always something I was thinking about. It's like, well, obviously, I take notes and do stuff in high school, but it's a lot of times prompted by the teacher, of course. Now it's like you're dropped into this lecture room and it's like, okay, the professor's talking. What do you do? At least for me, that's actually kind of goes back to expectations. I thought it was going to be totally here, you're on your own kind of thing. But at least Arizona State University and all the classes that I've been in, the professors are really great about communicating with you, especially in the first few days, first few lectures, like, hey, this is the class setup. This is the resources that are going to be available to you in videos, in note forms, and the packets or things that you need to fill out and whatnot. They're really great about communicating that. I mean, that is part of their skill set in being a professor, and they do a great job at it. So that'll be pretty clearly communicated, which is really awesome. And it's kind of looking again, just applying it to your best study style. And that's what's great is that there's really no way that you need to conform, at least in the college that I'm at. You can be really flexible on how you take notes and things. And it might adjust class to class. Like for my organic chemistry class, I kind of had a really good format of, hey, I knew I needed to read the book and take notes, but when my professor was lecturing to me through my videos, I didn't really need to because I did that through the book. But again, yeah, it's going to be adaptable to which class you have. And that's a great takeaway is that you can be flexible because the classes are set up to support you. So that's really great.
I had a question about how you're planning on only graduating in 3 years. and just kind of like how that process works. I know you have to like take a lot of classes and everything. So how have you kind of like managed that? Do you like tell your counselors that you're planning on doing that, or just kind of like how that works?
Sure. Yeah, great question. And that is definitely something I had to take a lot on my own. So it first stemmed from my junior, senior years in high school. I would take, of course, a lot of AP credit. There were dual enrollment college classes available to me, and I was just trying to scoop as many as I could together. I'm like, I know I'll be able to use it somehow in college. And basically, when you're with your advisors, they will guide you definitely in the right direction of, okay, you've taken this class that meets this requirement from the credit you have and meets this class. And at least at ASU, there's basically a major map, okay, of each semester, what you would need to take. So since I am graduating a year earlier, essentially, and I have all this credit, there was a lot of work on my end of printing out all of the major maps, crossing out the classes I've taken, and it was a lot on my end. Like I would only basically reach out to my advisor to confirm that I was doing it correctly. It was a lot on my end because I know that she was so busy with other students. And it was helpful for me to specifically cross out the ones that I've already done, and basically make a plan for myself and simply confirm with my advisor that I could do that. So it was basically a lot of work on my own end, and see if the university that you're looking at and the major that you want, if they have a specific degree requirements, and they should have the major map of some sort. And that'll be super helpful to see as you're going through high school, hey, I've taken AP chemistry, and then it can apply to this chemistry class from the credit I have. So preparing that ahead of time will be really helpful. And then just crossing that off and basically making your own major map is what you're going to have to do. So a lot of hand preparation for that, but it's worth it in the end, that's for sure. Great questions, guys.
What's been one of your favorite like memories you've had in college so far?
Ooh, gosh, those favorite questions type stuff. It's always so hard for me because I'm like, I just love everything. But something that was pretty standout, partially probably because of the circumstances. But my first semester was just going through like some in-person, some Zoom classes, just a mixture of both. And I didn't get too much involved since I was situating myself in a new state, college, everything thrown at me. But what was so eye-opening is when I got my student engagement job, basically in April of this year. After that, things were starting to build up as far as classes go, and events especially. And so when I was starting to able to see what was happening and actually go and help out at those events, it's like, oh my gosh, I can be with people. I can talk to people. Things are actually happening. That was such a great memory. It was like going from really not having as much of a college experience to really starting to interact with the people. And that's going to be super huge as soon as you're able to do that, depending on how COVID environment is in college in a couple of years. Being able to find your community and your group and your friends that you're close with, that is so rewarding, just knowing that you've come this way of working super hard and now being in a great studious environment where you're with the people that you really appreciate. And that was just a great memory. I want to say it was an Earth Day event that we did. And there was we did outdoor bonfires. We had a food documentary playing, which of course I loved. And it was just a great social experience to be with people after not having had that for so long. So just a random detail, but again, those little memories really make a difference. Great question.
Thank you.
How did you pick your college that you wanted to go to?
So yeah, this is actually kind of a funny story. I basically, before my senior year of high school even started, I already was accepted to ASU and I didn't apply anywhere else. ASU was the only college I applied to. And they had early admissions. So I was like, hey, I'm done. Basically, it kind of went along with my sister. I'm really close to her. And she came out to Arizona basically 2 years before I moved out. And she was here for physical therapy school. And when she was looking into that, I was like, hey, I would love to be able to follow her out here. Arizona seems like a really cool state. And then I started looking into ASU. And I was even thinking about this actually yesterday. I was like, well, now that I'm at ASU, I just think about it as the college I'm at. I'm like, how do other people perceive it? Is it still seen like a party school or something? I don't know. But once I just looked into it, I realized how many resources they had. I was particularly impressed when I first looked into it, actually just how the website of ASU was laid out. It's like they did a really good job just making everything easily accessible. You can tell that there's a lot of resources available at this college. And they had my kind of really niche specific degree that I could go into with plant genetics and research in that respect. And the 4 different campuses. So I knew that it was a huge university with a lot of resources, aligned with me wanting to move out with my sister. And now that I'm in Arizona, I mean, of course, I'm a Cali girl at heart. I love California, but it's just like, wow, there's so many new experiences out here that I haven't seen in my home state. And it's just, I feel a lot of growth here. And even though it can be scary thinking about moving either out of town or out of state, it's been very beneficial to my growth, even if it was a bit uncomfortable in the beginning stages. I just realized how much more independent, how much more responsible I've gotten in just a year. So it was a combination of many different factors that come together. But I guess my advice to you would then just be looking at, okay, where might I be interested in going to as far as the community around it? It's not just the university, it's also the town and the community and the state you're in. And seeing what resources are available, long-term planning outwise, do I want to go to grad school? Do I want to be able to work at this university? Just multiple factors that you kind of have to think about, and it takes time. But what's great about all you ladies is you are just starting your senior year, so you have a ton of time to think about that. So that's really awesome.
I have a question, another one. So like it's so funny that you say about like leaving and starting, a whole new experience.
Yeah.
Because like one of my biggest fears is leaving everything I know to go to college and then having to make all these new friends. So my question is how did you like make friends? Did you go to the orientations? Were the freshman orientations helpful? Did you find them in your class? Like what exactly did you do? Because in my head and from my sister, she's like, nobody talks to anybody in the classes. But I think she's just trying to scare me.
She may have been, I don't know, but I can give you some good news in that even with a restricted COVID year of freshman year of college, I was able to make a lot of connections. And with the COVID environment, there were no welcome orientation events for me. There wasn't that Sun Devil welcome that I was mentioning where like all 10,000 freshmen come together, because that just wasn't feasibly possible with the pandemic. And so what I did is it honestly almost made it easier in the respect that there were a select few people who would come in person. And so I just started making friends with the people who did come into those in-person classes, the select few. Made my group of girlfriends that I found. So that was helpful in that, it's just you start going to classes and you start meeting people. And then once you start getting involved, hey, I want to work in this department of the university and I'm going to get my job. Oh, I'm meeting all these people who are like-minded that want to be leaders in their communities. And you just start connecting with the people who have the same interests as you, because college is so awesome in that it provides people with all their different passions and interests with a specific outlet for that. So you're going to find people who have the same interests as you and that you can put that forward into concrete action. There even was like a community garden on my campus and I love gardening. So it's like, hey, I was there. I already immediately met people who had my same interests. And that just happens and builds over time. I keep meeting people so many times. I'm going to be on the main campus, on the Tempe campus this year. And just in the first few times that I had my summer class, that I did some filming there for some Insta advertisements that we're doing, it's like, oh my gosh, each day I'm meeting somebody new. And it's just knowing that you're going to make a lot of connections, and it's actually going to be harder to figure out who the specific people that you want to maintain stronger connections with are going to be. And what's great about like social media and things is that you can still have those baseline connections with everybody you meet, and then you can just build stronger connections with the people that are most meaningful to you. So no worry about that. You are definitely going to meet a ton of people, and it's actually going to be harder picking your specific group than it is going to be to find somebody. So don't even worry about that. No need for your sisters scaring you, which I get that. Sisters, they can definitely, try to tease you sometimes. I get that. Great question, Madeline.
My question is about like the general ed classes. I know in high school there's like regular classes, maybe honors classes, AP. I'm wondering if there's some type of honor system with classes in college.
Really good question, Tristan. Basically, there's no really like honors class per se, at least at ASU, but there typically are like honors programs, or for us, it's the Barrett Honors College that you can be a part of, where essentially how our honors college works is you take the same classes, but you may have like one extra symposium class that you need to take per semester, or in one of the classes that you would choose as an honors course, you would write like an extra research paper or something. So there's typically some kind of honors college or honors program that you can be a part of at your university that does give you that kind of more honors feel, but it's not like AP or something like that. But close. Very, very good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a question your ear off, but
This is
I want to
great.
talk about this. So I know you don't live on campus, right?
Right.
But I'm assuming that some of your friends may live on campus.
Mhm.
One of the things that I'm like a little confused on is trying to find a person to stay with. Like what do your friends look for, or what have you found is like the most important thing to keep in those type of rooms? Because I know that they're small.
Mhm. Yeah, I wish I could give you more advice on that, but since I didn't live on campus, and though some of my friends did live on campus, I don't know as much information on that, so I can't give you too much help. But I do know that there can be different options for like the amounts of people that you could have in your dorm. They can have like the 1, 2, or 3 bedroom maybe. I'm not sure how each dorm specifically works. But yes, I know it can be tricky, especially in your first semester trying to find somebody. But at least at ASU, I do know that pairings work where you can be paired up with somebody who is still from your same academic college. So the universities will try and pair you up or put you together, at least in the first semester, with students who are going to be in your similar major or taking similar classes. So that's really helpful. I know that it seems like universities will really try and give you your best experience for living on campus, but you'll definitely have to reach out to maybe somebody else who did live on campus, since I can't give you more advice. But definitely, that's a great question. So definitely see if there's somebody that you can reach out to about that.
I had a question about like AP classes. A lot of my friends, they talk about like how like, oh, if you don't get a 5 on something, then you're like never going to get college credit for it, or some colleges they don't even accept some AP classes. So what AP classes have you taken, and have like has that helped with like getting college credit? And also I was just wondering, I don't know if you're in the honor system or not, but do you think the honors programs at colleges are like worth it? Because I feel like it seems like a lot since college classes are already difficult.
Both really, really good questions, Skylar. And this just brings me back to realize, yeah, I mean, how much I had to think about with AP classes. And now that I'm in college, it's like, okay, that was behind me. But yeah, that very, very good question. So starting with AP, essentially your best bet is going to be looking into the college and or colleges that you're interested in and seeing if they have an AP credit transfer guide. And it'll, at least at ASU, what they have is exactly that, a transfer guide that you look at the specific class you take. I'll use AP chemistry, for example. And the way it works for each different class, it'll tell you, hey, this is the minimum score that you'll get credit for this specific class. And that's just how you transfer it. So at ASU, if for AP chemistry, I believe if you got a 3, you would get out of one class, like chemistry 1. If you got a 4 or 5, then you would get out of chemistry 1 and chemistry 2. So it's as simple as that. It's just seeing if that university you're interested in has that transfer guide, and then just seeing how that applies. And it's always like, okay, then I'm going to shoot for the scores so I can hopefully get out of 2 classes and not just 1. And then shooting at least for 1 class would be great. So that'll be really helpful if you could find that. And then as far as honors programs go, for me, I was really struggling to find out, hey, should I go into the Barrett Honors College? Is it going to provide me any benefit? And from my perspective at ASU, basically what the Honors College does is that it requires you to say, go into some research or do a certain internship. So it can be beneficial in structuring that for you. But I didn't end up going into the Honors College with Barrett because I did see that it was more work, and I knew that I could just reach out to those research positions that I want on my own. And I just want to focus on my degree, and the extra Honors College kind of sticker or stamp that you get on it, I was like, I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. So it's going to be basically your best bet to look into the specific honors program that your college has, that you're interested in, and just see what you would have to do in the details and how much benefit that it would provide for you, or if you're able to do that on your own without having to go the honors college route. So it can be case by case basis, but it's not necessarily something you need. Great questions. That's really good.
Tristan, do you have a question? I see your hand up, but I don't know if you just didn't take that down from last time.
Oh, I think there might have been something in the chat. I've heard a lot of colleges have a social media page specifically for incoming freshmen where you can talk to potential roommates. Yeah, definitely with social media, there's going to be a lot posted from your university. And even like our ASU has like Slack channels. I don't know if you've heard of Slack before, but I had no idea what it was before. And it's just a conversation platforming app. And they had specific channels for freshmen, and then you can reach out, hey, who's looking for a roommate? And definitely, yeah, those social media channels could be helpful.
Do we have any other questions, ladies? I know it's the end of the week. You're like overloaded at this point.
Yeah, I can imagine. I saw you guys had a great lineup of speakers. I was like, gosh, I don't know how I'm going to come up with anything new or novel at the end of the week, but hopefully this was helpful in some respect. I love answering all your guys' questions. This is very fun for me.
No, I think it's awesome to hear from someone who's like actually in college doing what they want to do. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? College questions, DYW questions?
Yeah, anything under the sun. If you have anything, please ask away.
I have a question. What are like average class sizes for your degree? Like how big are they? How many kids? Like, so we can, I just want a good idea of like what the professor is handling.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm going to tell you very vaguely, it depends. For me, I switched degrees actually. At first I was in sustainable horticulture. I wanted a double major with molecular biotech. And then the other college said, no, they're too similar. You can't double major. So I was like, okay, I'll just switch. But my first year, I was in sustainable horticulture, which is a very, very small niche degree. So if it's a degree that's going to seem more specific and less popular, you're typically going to find classes that are much smaller. And I was originally based on, there's 4 campuses at ASU. I was at their second largest Polytechnic campus, and that is way smaller than the Tempe campus. And the Tempe is huge. So naturally, the class sizes were going to be smaller, and especially compounded by COVID. I was taking a soils class, which again is very specific. Not many people are going to take it. I was in there with 2 other students and the professor. So it was very small, very focused. So it was interesting in that respect, in that it was kind of like a one-on-one. And then my physics class on that campus, I had maybe 25, 30, 35 students in there. And even that is super small for college because it just naturally was a smaller campus plus COVID. But now this year, when I'm going to be at Tempe, it's like, woo, dramatic shift. I'm going to be in huge lecture hall classes for, say, like biochemistry, where I'm going to be in this huge lecture hall that could have hundreds of students. So it's just going to really depend, again, on the size of your campus, the size of your major or your degree that you're looking into, and the specific class. So it's going to be a new experience for me with these really big classes that I'm going to have. But it's just going to be kind of an adaptation skill in trying out these different environments. Plus, I'm not sure how the COVID factor will be with Zoom classes and things. So it just depends. And if you're able to get a variety of sizes, I think that's your best bet because you can experience it all. So hopefully you get a little bit of everything.
I'm so
I have
sorry.
another
Oh,
question. Oh. Go ahead, Alan. I'll ask after you. Okay. I kind of have two questions. They kind of go off each other, though. You just mentioned double majoring. Are you double majoring right now?
Not currently, but
Okay.
if that was the end of your question, I could expand on that a little bit.
Okay. So if I were to double major, how difficult is that?
Okay, so my original plan going into ASU is I wanted to do sustainable horticulture on the Polytechnic campus, and then I wanted to do molecular biotechnology on the Tempe campus. So on one side, I'd have like hands-on horticulture growing experience, and then on the other side, I'd have laboratory research skills. It's kind of what my plan was. And I was excited about it because the two degrees had similar like general education classes, but then where they diverged is exactly the purpose I wanted it for. I had like hands-on horticulture classes, and then I had like biochemistry and fundamentals of genetic engineering and that kind of thing. So it seemed very doable as far as just how they overlapped. And I was really excited for that. But again, because they were too similar, then the two colleges said that I couldn't double major. So that can make it more difficult if the only way you could double major is if the classes are completely different. And then yes, you're going to be kind of overloaded with a lot of stuff. But at this point now, I am still in that one molecular biotech degree, but I found a certificate. So this is another neat thing is you can do minors and certificates in college. And the certificate I'm doing is still at the Polytechnic campus for desert food production. And I only need to take like 6 classes in total, I think, for it, but they're basically the same classes I would need for the sustainable horticulture degree. So I can still get what I want out of it without it being 2 majors. And then I'm doing a personal health minor just because I love nutrition, I love fitness. I'm like, hey, what the heck, why not? So it's totally doable. I have basically a full load this semester of 18 credits, but I'm balancing it between, hey, I'm going to do an online class for the first half of the semester. I'm basically on 2 different campuses that I shuttle in between. And again, that's taking advantage of all the resources and opportunities they have on campus. And it's definitely doable, especially with the dedication all you girls have to have that successfully in a schedule of taking all sorts of different classes and doing stuff over the summer. Totally doable. If that's what you're interested in, go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Madeline, before you start your question, do you guys know what certificates are? Just in case some of you don't. Certificates are offered by colleges, and they're like not as prestigious or qualified as a degree, I guess I would say. But they are an option if you really want to learn like something in a certain area. It's less classes you have to take usually because it's not a full degree, it's a certificate. But they're also a practical use. Like at Long Beach, they have lots of certificates that prepare you for like certain working jobs or going out into the field, or a lot of them pair with a major. So like my major was recreation and leisure, and they would be like, well, if you want, there's like these 3 certificates, depending on what you want to do with your degree, that will like look better to employers if you want to plan events, if you want to work in the National Park Service, or if you want to work on campus. So it's like kind of, it's not a degree, but it's a way, like Stephanie really just wants to learn about this. So like that's her way of doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Casey. That's right.
I had no idea what they were when I got to college. I was like, what the hell is a certificate? Like, what do you mean? Like, I thought we were all here for degrees. So it was a lot for me to wrap my head around, but they are pretty cool if you just want to learn. They're great.
Even like one of my friends who's going into veterinary science, she wanted to have like a specific kind of a branch off of veterinary science. So she's doing a certificate in like wildlife research or something like that. So it can be a way just to specify your major too, and just kind of give you a more well-rounded or more specific type of degree.
I have another question. So I had no idea that you were able to double major. I did not know that was a thing because I've always wanted to go into communications. I love speaking. But I didn't know if I wanted to major in communications and then minor in business, or major in business and then minor in communications. But my question is like, is a minor even worth it? Like, is it worth the putting the extra effort to get it if it's not a major?
That's a really good question. And it's going to be something that you'll have to look at specifically for your college, first of all. But really, what will help you the most is looking at the classes it offers. And ultimately, when you think about what you're taking in college, it's giving you a skill set to learn what you want to do in the workforce and what you want to do with your life afterwards. Less so about, hey, I took this class, okay, now I'm qualified. It's like, what am I specifically going to learn from this? So if you feel like, in the future beyond college, like, hey, I want to really focus more on like public speaking, but I want to have the skills of how to run a business, to have that specific skill set. Maybe if you look at the minor and you realize, I get just enough of the classes I need to learn about how to have a business properly. Well, my main major is still communications because that's what I'm most passionate about. That may be your best bet. Or if it's the other way around, it's kind of looking at what your ultimate goal is on the other side of college and seeing what specific classes are offered in each of those degrees. And just really taking a real life perspective and knowing what you're going to learn from it. And like from my example, I know that I'm going to want to go into academic research and I want to do plant research. And a class that's not in any of my majors or anything is like a statistical research class. And that's not in anything that's required, but I know, hey, I want that skill set. And so it doesn't have any written lettering on my diploma or anything like that, but I know that's a skill set that I want. So it's just kind of going through college with the perspective that I want to learn these skills kind of thing.
And
So
just to add on to that, Madeline, that's something too, like depending on where you go to college or when you're looking into it, or like we discussed yesterday, when you're calling those admissions visors, let's talk to them about it. Like, do you recommend this? Do students at your school, can they handle both of these majors? Or is that like a ludicrous idea? Because it's, you know what I mean? Like, and talk to them about it. Like, do you have any students that are double majoring in these majors that I could talk to? Or like someone who's majoring and minoring? Like I would definitely like go that route and see like what works for you. Like, I would like to go into this profession. Would it make more sense for me to double major minor, like they have business certificates. Maybe you don't want to deal with the class load of, like a business major at all, but you will want that knowledge. Like Stephanie's saying, you could get a business certificate. So I think definitely reaching out, asking questions to kind of see how that will fit into your life would be a good idea too.
Yeah, that's really smart. Like even because what I'm going into is so specific, I'm really just trying to find professors that, okay, went through them, like, hey, what do you recommend? What do you think I should do? Kind of thing, since they have more experience from that perspective. So Casey's absolutely right. Reach out, get that on the ground experience from somebody that is in that same area.
Any other questions from everyone?
So I actually have a question on my end. I know very little about the week of this California state experience. Has this been basically all over Zoom, just like meetings and stuff? Okay, dang, you girls must have Zoom fatigue. I'm sorry for stressing you even more. And then like self-expression interview, that's all this weekend, right? Oh my gosh, so excited for all you girls. I know it can be stressful, but again, it's like, it's fun too. You're learning so much out of it. And there's so many skills you're getting from it. So yay, I'm so excited for all of you.
That's actually a question I have for you, Stephanie. So Stephanie did the national competition digitally. That was their first digital one. And actually Stephanie's really great at both public speaking and interview. And I think
Thank you.
almost like, and does it very well over Zoom. So do you have any tips for their interview or self-expression? Because that's coming up.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yes. Okay. So that was definitely interesting. It was like taking all of the in-person stuff that I knew from state in California and then trying to transfer it all onto a computer. It's like, how does that happen? I didn't even know how nationals worked in the first place. How is this happening over Zoom and stuff? For self-expression, it was a lot about, okay, the base skills. Okay, you just want to put your best self with public speaking and answering the question, the baseline category itself. But then you have to consider, of course, the physical screen requirements and how is that going to transfer. So it was a lot about practice. I did a lot of, okay, I set up my tripod. Okay, here's my phone. And then taking many shots and angles. How does it look in this position? Am I looking at the camera? That's a big thing. It's like I always want to like see your individual faces, but then I know, okay, I actually have to look at the camera on the screen so that it looks like I'm looking directly into your eyes. So that was a big thing of looking at angles and things, especially for self-expression. That was the biggest. The other thing for interview is also, again, just knowing your positioning of your height of your computer and where you're sitting at, and how is that looking on the other end. So you can kind of replicate as consistent of an in-person interview as you could, making it as much of face-to-face as possible. And that's just the great thing about understanding that even though it's a screen, it's still somebody at the other end. And you want to be as authentic and have that perspective of it being in person as much as you can, because I knew how difficult like being on the stage is and how much of an extra step that is. So I just try to have that perspective of thinking, hey, it's just thinking of it performing the same way as I would be on stage in front of a bunch of people. And that got me in the right mindset to really be my most polished and most expressive self, even through a screen. So there's definitely other little details and a lot of preparation that goes into it. So just look at your angles, look at your computer, look at your camera. It's a lot of the logistics that you just need to prepare for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing. It was like, okay, this is not only nationals DYW, but there's also the digital requirement of it. How is this going to transfer? So it's big props to you ladies for, finding ways to transfer that over. It's basically a whole nother aspect of the program. So I'm very, very proud of you all for doing that. That's really nice work. Awesome.
Yeah, you
I have a question real fast.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So, how I tend to like ramble a lot when I'm speaking. So, how long do you usually spend on the interview questions when they ask them?
That's a good question, because I myself tend to ramble, and you may have seen that a lot today because it sometimes just comes out and I want to keep talking, and I get that. It's totally understandable. That's still something I struggle a lot with interview practice. I always try to find ways to express what I'm trying to say without going overboard, without rambling. And one thing that's helped me is realizing that I don't need to be fast. I can slow down and think about really what the interviewer is asking me. There's no need to rush or to fill any quiet space or anything like that. Even when they ask you the question, you can, just take a second for yourself, really think about the question, and then go forward with it and think about what your overall message is within that question while still showing your personality. You don't need to damper that whatsoever. And just trying to answer the whole complete question in a concise, but still it doesn't have to be super cut kind of answer. It's just most importantly showing your personality with a genuine response and not being afraid to take the time to think about it. I'm pretty sure, and when I would do my interviews, I think I didn't get through that many questions because yes, I would ramble and potentially take a lot of time. And it's something that takes practice, and that's exactly why all you ladies are here, is to practice this real world skill that's going to be so important, that I still know I need to practice so much more for, because there's still so much of that ahead of me in life. So you're exactly where you need to be in practicing that. It's going to give you so much skill set and practice.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay. Well, Eunice, I'm going to make you ask your closing question, obviously. Stephanie, do you have any other thoughts or anything?
I think the only other thing that I always tout is make sure you have a celebration plan. For me, after my last interview, that was going Costco shopping because I love grocery shopping. So it could be anything that you just love to do. Make a celebration plan because you deserve it more than that in the world. So celebrate all of your guys' achievements. It's really amazing that you all have done.
That is awesome advice. Thank you. That's awesome. You guys should celebrate. That's a
yes, please. even if that's just going to Costco, because that's fun for me.
They have the best floors to dance on. I don't know if you guys have ever danced in the Costco
Whoa,
aisle, but their
really?
floor, you can just slide. You can, next time you're there, Steph, try it out.
I need to try it.
You can like anything on their floors, man. Tristan knows what I'm talking about. Thank you. They have the best, like you can just like jam down the aisles like nobody's business. That's like my favorite thing about Costco.
I need to do that. I need to like go to.
Slick cement. Miss Eunice, would you like to close our time with Stephanie today?
So what was your most memorable part in your Distinguished Young Women journey?
Oh goodness, not these questions. Okay. I think my most memorable part, and this might be kind of cheating, but it's probably meeting everybody that I had met and the networks that I have created. Because before Distinguished Young Woman, I was definitely more in a shell in my own bubble and not really extended out of my comfort zone in the people and the interactions that I had created. So just from a holistic standpoint of all the networks that I've created and all the establishments that I have on my phone through social media and those connections that I see, it's like, I know I've created another branch of experience with somebody else who has another perspective, because ultimately that's what I find to be the most rewarding in my life, is when I can perceive life from another standpoint, another viewpoint. And that's only achievable when you experience life with other individuals, and especially when they're people as talented as all the young women and Distinguished Young Women. So that probably has been my most memorable, because I think about it all the time, and that's why I keep coming back to speak with all of you, because I know I'm going to continue to make those connections and hopefully pass on some advice, and again, learn more from you guys. So thank you to all of you for that, for helping me continue to make those connections. And good luck in all your life journeys and college and everything. And I don't know if any of my contact information is available at all, but I always say this, please feel free to reach out to anything if you need. I'm always a welcome listener, a welcome advice giver. I may even want to reach out myself. So please do if that's available. And I love you all so much. Please, good luck. And again, celebrate. Dance on the Costco floors if you have to.
While you just got my brain thinking about that, we're doing a thank you note exercise later. Would you mind texting me your best address to receive notes at?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, if nobody has anything else, we can say goodbye. Thank you so much for coming today. I think that was a great look at college, especially from being your best self in college. I love that. Good luck in all your future endeavors. I'm a big fan. I'll be following you to see what you end up doing, because I feel like so thank you so much. And yeah, we will keep looking. Girls, if you have any kind of college questions, ever need a role model, reach out to Stephanie. She is the one.
I'm here for anything. Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great Thursday and a great weekend. Good luck.
Thanks. All righty, ladies. Let me